So today we're finally going to work on the drift car. I haven't recorded anything that I've done so far. I've just been working on it. Doing intercooler piping, everything else. It was in pieces, not running when I got it. Figured out what was wrong with it, fixed it. And now we're going to go through and weld the diff. And since I'm almost done now, I'll take the time to record it and make a little video for the people that haven't done it before. It's very easy. You can do it with a Harbor Freight welder. I've done a handful of them and I've never had one fail yet. So first thing first, we're going to jack up the car. And since it's raining outside today, if I get it done and it's still wet this evening, I go slide. Also means I gotta lay outside the garage to get the car jacked up. Time to get wet. Alright, first step, get the exhaust off. Pretty easy, not gonna go through that one. Couple hangers, couple bolts, get it hanging. Next step, we're gonna break loose all the bolts. There's 4 on the back of the diff, 2 on the nose of it, 4 on the drive shaft, 6 on each axle. So not too many, hopefully they're not rusted. Break them off and then I'll show you how to drop it on your chest and get it out from underneath the car. So these 4 17s, you can get a ratchet on 3 of them. This guy, because the gas tank strap's right here, you'll need to put a wrench on him. So you break all those loose, and because they're studded, it's not going to fall out or anything. You can take them all the way off. Fronts will break loose, and then we'll just drop them down a little ways, and then finish breaking everything else. 4 down, now we'll attack the axles. 12 on each side, through bolt. And sometimes you got to go up there and grab the e-brake, keep it from spinning on you. But other than that, you can just break them loose by hand. Alright, got them all out. The drive shafts, or not the drive shaft, the axles on both sides. And now we're going to do the 4 on the drive shaft, and then we're going to drop it out. Alright, got the drive shaft bolts out, 14 millimeter. Got the axle bolts out, 12 millimeters. Got the 4 on the back of the diff, 17 millimeter, and the 2 on the front of the diff loosened up, 17 millimeters. Now you might have to use a hammer and just hit these guys, because sometimes they'll be rusted together, or you use a chisel or something in a little gap. Just make sure they're free on both sides. Now we're going to do the fun thing of dropping this. If you have a buddy, you can do it on a jack. If you're by yourself, I think it's easiest just to drop it on your chest and then just kind of scoot out from underneath the car. In a minute, you're just going to push it back and then push it above this, which is the output shaft of the diff. So you'll pop both of those out. Then we'll slowly loosen these guys, drop it on the chest, and wiggle out from underneath the car. Hope you're able to see some of that. Ugh. There it is. Diff is out. Now we'll clean it off, drain the fluid, pull it apart, and weld it up. Well, one mistake I did make, or forgot to tell you, is loosen the drain plug before you pull the diff out of the car. Otherwise you're going to have a hard time holding it. In that case, just use an impact 1/2-inch drive, break it loose, and we'll let her drain. One of the last things people ever think about changing, differential fluid. And if you've never smelled it before, it's got a heck of a smell to it. Not very pleasant. so you can see what it looks like inside. Those are the spiders in the middle. That's what we're going to weld up. No more one wheel. No more smooth cruising around town either. But at least everything looks in good shape. We got these 4 bolts. Take the caps off. There's an outer race and spacers on each side. They need to stay on whichever side they come from. So keep all the stuff on the right, separated from the stuff on the left. Next thing, we're going to take out all the bolts that hold the ring gear to the carrier, I guess, or just the diff itself. It allows you to get in there and weld a little bit better. When you do this, you should indicate the ring gear to the housing so it's going back in the exact same position. I mean, it should all be flat, it shouldn't really matter, but better safe than sorry. Always indicate it to the housing so it's going back in the exact same spot. Alright, that's a long video. Now we got it all apart. Housing, what we're going to weld up. Ring gear, just clean it. But, take us over to Sean's house, clean it all up in the solvent tank. And come back, weld it up, put it all back together. Footage because I forgot my camera at my buddy's house when I went over there and cleaned it up in the wash tank. It didn't miss a whole lot. All I did was weld it up, which is not something you really see anyway. And now, sitting in the freezer. We gotta get this thing cold enough so the ring gear will slide over it again because it's a real tight fit. Show you when we're out there, but there's 4 spots on each side, 6 spots on each side I weld. The spider gears I'll weld to each other, and then I weld the bottom and top gears to the case on both sides. All 4 spiders, top and bottom. She isn't going to go anywhere. You can plate some of them, but I don't think that adds a whole lot of strength. As long as you put a good weld on it, that entire carrier will self-destruct before like all those welds break apart. There's 12 welds on that thing. I don't think they're going to go anywhere. But anyway, that thing's going to cool down. I'm going to heat the ring gear up with a torch here in a little bit, and then we'll slide them back together and start putting bolts in it. Alright, I got just kind of in the zone and forgot to take some video. Yeah, it's all the way together. It didn't miss much. Pulled it from the freezer, brought it out here, dropped the ring gear on it, lined up the marks we indicated earlier, torqued all the bolts down 130 to 145 foot-pounds, red Loctite. Then I put a little oil on the bearings, put the outer races in, drop it into the case, make sure you got the shims on both sides, and then put the cover on it, bead of silicone, just finger tight all these guys, let it sit for an hour. I'll come back and torque them all. The bearing caps are 72 foot-pounds, this torque spec, or it's like 65 to 72. I think my torque wrench is worn out a little bit, so I went on the high side. Torque from 72. I don't know what these are yet. I gotta look them up. Jan, once you get those torqued together, put the output shafts back into it and let it dry overnight, and we'll throw it back in the car tomorrow. Alright, day 2. It's 7 o'clock in the morning. Getting an early start on it. All the silicone's dried. Everything's torqued. Now we're just putting the output shafts back in. Just clean up the sealing surface. I always put a little bit of grease or silicone there. Hammer it in, and then we're going to throw it back in the car. So So hopefully we'll be done here in the next hour or two. And we're going to work on some other car parts for somebody else.
The minute it existed, it was the most powerful land power in Europe. With a larger population than France traditionally.
So you can kind of see on this dip, you're just going to fill until it comes up to the same level as the fill hole. Essentially, once it starts to pour out a little bit, that's when you know it's full. And she's back in. Kinda. That's it, she's done. Test it out in a minute.